11 habits that makes you silently attractive. 12 lessons for timeless influence by Sculpted Grace Hook. Have you ever met someone who doesn't need to announce themselves, yet when they enter a room, people instinctively notice? They don't shout for attention, they don't put on a show, and yet there is something magnetic about them. Their quiet confidence speaks louder than words. Their calm presence steadies the room, and their dignity draws respect without a single demand. This kind of power is rare, but it is also attainable. Introduction. The Stoics understood a truth that the modern world often forgets. True influence does not come from noise, but from mastery of the self. In a society obsessed with visibility, performance, and constant validation, it is easy to mistake loudness for strength. But noise fades. What endures is character. What lingers is presence. Stoicism teaches us that the foundation of true attractiveness and lasting respect lies not in chasing admiration, but in embodying principles so strong that admiration comes naturally. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, once wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." To live as a Stoic is to cultivate this calmness, this ability to stay centered when the world is chaotic, to remain steady when others crumble, and to let your life itself speak as the loudest testimony of your values. The Stoics believed that real strength is not about conquering others, but about conquering yourself. And when you do, you radiate a quiet magnetism that people cannot ignore. In the following lessons, we will uncover 12 timeless Stoic principles that build this kind of presence. These are not tricks or surface-level habits. They are deep practices, rooted in ancient wisdom, yet profoundly relevant today. Each one is a step toward cultivating a life that inspires trust, admiration, and respect. Not through boasting, but through living with intention and quiet strength. Lesson 1. Embrace your authentic independence. There is something undeniably powerful about a person who is not swayed by the constant pull of others' opinions. They do not chase approval, nor do they collapse under criticism. Instead, they live according to their own values, guided by principles that come from within. This is the Stoic lesson of authentic independence, a state where your sense of worth is rooted in your inner self, not the shifting tides of external judgment. Authentic independence does not mean rejecting people or isolating yourself from the world. Instead, it means building a foundation so strong that you can stand tall regardless of outside noise. It is about enjoying the presence of others without becoming dependent on their approval, and about giving value to relationships without needing them to define you. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This power of mind is what creates independence, the unshakable assurance that your peace does not hinge on the whims of others. Think of someone who remains calm when others criticize, who does not break under gossip, and who doesn't need to broadcast their achievements to feel accomplished. These individuals are magnetic precisely because they are rare. In a world obsessed with likes, applause, and validation, they represent freedom. They show us what it looks like to live from within rather than from the crowd's fleeting approval. And because they are not trying to impress anyone, people are naturally impressed by them. Living with independence also transforms how you love, work, and connect. Relationships become rooted in respect rather than need, because You are not grasping at others to fill a void within. Friendships become richer because they are built on choice rather than dependency. Even your work becomes more fulfilling because you are motivated by purpose, not by constant comparison. Independence is not about rejecting others. It is about showing up as a complete person, one who offers rather than clings. When you stop living for the crowd and begin living for your principles, your life becomes steady. And in that steadiness lies respect. People sense it, they admire it, and without you saying a word, your presence alone begins to inspire. That is the magnetism of authentic independence, the quiet power of someone who does not need the world to complete them, because they are already whole. Lesson 2. Master the art of silent elegance. Sometimes the most powerful presence in a room is not the one that makes the most noise, but the one that radiates calm assurance. This is the essence of silent elegance, the ability to carry yourself with grace, poise, and quiet confidence in any situation. It is not about being flashy or drawing all eyes on purpose. It is about being so composed, so balanced, and so intentional in your actions that people cannot help but notice you. Think of someone who walks into a gathering with a steady posture, a measured step, and a warm but subtle smile. They do not need to raise their voice to be heard, nor do they dominate the conversation to feel relevant. Their body language communicates self-respect without arrogance. A relaxed yet upright stance, steady eye contact, and thoughtful gestures convey a dignity that no words can replicate. In fact, our body often speaks before our mouth does, and when it speaks with control, people naturally respect it. Silent elegance also shines through in how you treat others. Politeness, good manners, and respectful listening leave an impression that lingers far longer than clever words or dramatic behavior. The way you greet people with warmth, listen without interruption, and respect even those who may not be able to offer you anything reflects deep strength of character. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Dignity does not consist in possessing honors, but in deserving them." True elegance is not about external recognition. It is about cultivating dignity from within. In practice, this means resisting the temptation to overreact or overshare. It means bringing restraint into your words, patience into your actions, and thoughtfulness into your choices. When others lose their temper, silent elegance is seen in your ability to remain composed. When conversations spiral into gossip or drama, your restraint sets you apart. Elegance is not stiffness. It is the calm power of someone who knows that composure itself is influence. Consider also how this lesson applies beyond physical presence. Elegance extends to the choices you make in daily life. The simplicity of your style, the clarity of your communication, the quality of your habits. It is the opposite of excess. It is refinement. Just as clutter distracts, unnecessary noise in speech or action diminishes respect. But when your words are measured and your actions deliberate, you command attention without ever needing to demand it. Silent elegance, then, is not about performance. It is about mastery. It is a form of quiet power that cannot be faked because it comes from deep self-control and genuine respect for yourself and others. When you embody this, you do not need to compete for respect. You simply earn it, naturally and without effort. Lesson 3. The subtle scent of sophistication. Sometimes it is the smallest details that leave the strongest impression. The way you speak, the way you carry yourself, and yes, even the way you smell, can quietly shape how others perceive you. The Stoics would remind us that our external presentation should reflect inner order and discipline. The subtle scent of sophistication is not about vanity or indulgence, but about refinement. The quiet, almost invisible signals that you respect yourself enough to care for the details. Scent is one of the most powerful triggers of memory and emotion. A fragrance, when chosen with care, becomes part of your presence, lingering in the minds of those you encounter. But sophistication in this context is never loud. It is not about overpowering colognes or perfumes that dominate a space. It is about subtlety, a balanced, refined aroma that enhances your presence without demanding attention. Just as wisdom whispers rather than shouts, sophistication should be noticed not because it screams, but because it lingers softly. Sophistication, however, extends beyond fragrance. It is seen in your grooming, in the neatness of your appearance, and in the quiet consistency of your self-care habits. When you are clean, polished, and intentional in the way you present yourself, you silently communicate discipline. Seneca wrote, "Let your outward appearance be simple and dignified, reflecting the serenity of your mind." The way you maintain yourself is not about impressing others. It is about aligning the outer with the inner, showing that order begins with the self. Think about someone you know who always seems composed. They don't have to wear the most expensive clothes or the trendiest styles, but there is something refined in their appearance. Their attention to detail speaks volumes without a word. That quiet discipline makes them memorable. They don't demand respect. They embody it, and the impression they leave through subtle signals like scent, posture, or manner feels effortless but lasting. Practicing this kind of sophistication is not about obsessing over perfection. It is about cultivating small habits that show you value yourself. Showering daily, wearing clean and well-kept clothes, tending to your hair and nails, choosing a light and refined fragrance, all these actions speak to self-respect. And self-respect, when visible, inspires respect from others. The Stoics taught that the outer should reflect the inner. Just as your thoughts should be disciplined, so too should your presentation be orderly. This is not superficial. It is symbolic. A life that is balanced on the inside will naturally express balance on the outside. And when you embody this harmony, you become unforgettable, not because you are loud, but because you are quietly refined. Lesson 4. Being fully present. In a world buzzing with constant distractions, there is something magnetic about a person who is truly present. They are not checking their phone mid-conversation, not drifting in thought while you speak, and not waiting impatiently for their turn to respond. Instead, they are fully engaged, listening with their eyes, their posture, and their attention. This ability to be present is not just polite. It is powerful. It communicates value, respect, and strength without needing a single word. We all know what it feels like when someone is only half with us. Their gaze flickers, their responses are shallow, and you sense their mind is elsewhere. It makes you feel dismissed, as though your words do not matter. On the other hand, when someone listens intently, when they give you the gift of their undivided attention, you feel heard, respected, even elevated. That experience stays with you. Presence, therefore, is more than a habit. It is a rare gift and one that people never forget. The Stoics emphasize this principle often. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." To the Stoics, the present moment was where life truly happened, not in the regrets of the past or the anxieties of the future. When you are fully present, you are not only giving attention to others, you are also anchoring yourself in reality. You free yourself from distractions, judgments, and mental clutter. In that quiet focus, you gain strength. Being present also makes you more perceptive. You begin to notice subtleties, the tone behind someone's words, the emotions in their expression, the energy of a room. This awareness heightens your emotional intelligence, allowing you to connect more deeply with others. People naturally gravitate toward those who make them feel understood, and presence, more than anything else, communicates this understanding. But presence is not only about others, it is also about how you live within yourself. Many of us rush through our days, barely tasting our food, barely noticing the beauty around us, barely appreciating the small joys available to us. To practice presence is to slow down, to engage with life fully, to live deliberately. This is where true contentment grows. In a noisy world, presence is silence made visible. It is rare, it is valuable, and it is magnetic. People may forget much of what you say, but they will always remember how you made them feel when you were fully with them. And when you live this way, not distracted, not scattered, but grounded, you embody a quiet power that others can't help but admire. Lesson 5. A touch of mystery. In an age where oversharing has become the norm, mystery is a forgotten art. Today, many people broadcast every detail of their lives online. Their meals, their arguments, their struggles, even their private thoughts. But when everything is revealed, nothing is intriguing. Mystery, on the other hand, creates depth. It is not about secrecy or distance. It is about leaving room for discovery, allowing others to be curious about who you are and what you stand for. A person with a touch of mystery does not spill their life story in the first meeting, nor do they feel the need to justify every choice they make. Instead, they reveal themselves gradually, layer by layer, over time. This makes interactions richer because people feel like they are continuously learning something new about you. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once advised, "Be silent, or let your words be worth more than silence." In other words, not everything needs to be said, and often the things unsaid carry the greatest weight. Mystery also builds respect. When you are selective about what you share, you show control. You're not seeking validation through constant disclosure, nor are you trying to impress through endless stories. Instead, you live with intention, letting your actions speak louder than your words. This quiet restraint communicates strength. People admire those who are not compelled to explain themselves at every turn. But mystery does not mean being distant or cold. It means being intentional. You can still be warm, approachable, and kind while also holding something of yourself back. Think of it as creating space for curiosity. When someone doesn't know everything about you, they are drawn to discover more. That process of discovery deepens connections and makes relationships more meaningful. Living with a touch of mystery also encourages you to cultivate a richer inner life. When you don't feel the need to broadcast everything, you can focus more deeply on your passions, your values, and your growth. Your life becomes layered, full of interests and pursuits that quietly add to your depth of character. People may not fully understand you, and that is precisely what keeps you memorable. In a culture of constant exposure, mystery is a form of quiet rebellion. It says, I do not need to be fully known to be respected. I do not need to reveal everything to be valued. I am enough as I am, and what you see is only the surface of something deeper. That is the silent strength of mystery, an unspoken magnetism that draws people in without ever needing to chase them. Lesson 6. Cultivate cultural wisdom. There is something undeniably attractive about a person who carries themselves with quiet confidence and broad understanding. They don't just see the world through their own narrow lens. They take the time to explore, to listen, and to learn from perspectives beyond their own. This is what it means to cultivate cultural wisdom, a trait that adds depth, richness, and quiet strength to your character. Cultural wisdom is not about flaunting knowledge of facts, foreign languages, or world trivia. Rather, it is about curiosity, the kind that makes you genuinely interested in how other people live, think, and experience the world. When you ask thoughtful questions about someone's background, traditions, or values, you show respect. You communicate that you are not self-absorbed, but open, willing to learn. Marcus Aurelius once advised, "Look beneath the surface, let not outward appearances mislead you." Cultural wisdom is the habit of doing exactly that, looking beyond surface differences to understand what lies deeper in the human experience. In practice, this might mean reading books outside your usual interests, engaging in conversations with people whose lives are very different from yours, or even traveling to see firsthand how others live. But even without leaving your city, cultural wisdom can be cultivated by paying attention, by approaching others with curiosity instead of judgment. This habit doesn't just make you more interesting, it makes you more compassionate, because understanding leads to empathy. People are naturally drawn to those who see the world widely, someone who can discuss not only their own experiences but also draw insights from history, philosophy, or diverse cultures becomes magnetic in conversation. They don't dominate discussions. Instead, they enrich them. And because they are not speaking to show off but to share understanding, their words carry quiet power. Cultivating cultural wisdom also shields you from arrogance. When you realize how vast the world is, how many perspectives exist, and how much there is still to learn, humility grows. This humility makes you approachable, because you are not trying to present yourself as all-knowing. Instead, you embody the strength of a lifelong learner, someone who, despite their wisdom, remains open to new lessons. In a world where many are quick to judge what is unfamiliar, cultural wisdom stands out. It says, "I respect what I do not yet know. I am willing to see beyond myself." And that openness makes you magnetic, because people are drawn to those who make them feel seen, understood, and respected. True cultural wisdom, then, is not about information, it is about perspective. And perspective is what turns ordinary encounters into extraordinary connections. Lesson 7. The heartbeat of compassion. Strength is often misunderstood as hardness, the ability to be unbending, unyielding, and unmoved. Yet the greatest strength is often found in compassion, the ability to see the pain of others, to recognize it without judgment, and to respond with kindness. Compassion is not weakness. It is not softness in the sense of fragility. It is courage, the courage to remain human in a world that can be cold and indifferent. When you show compassion, you communicate that you are strong enough to care. Many people protect themselves by building walls, fearing their kindness will be mistaken for naivety. But true compassion is not about being naive. It is about seeing reality as it is, people's flaws, their struggles, their mistakes, and choosing to respond with understanding instead of scorn. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil." His point was not to resent them, but to prepare oneself to meet them with patience. That preparation is compassion in action. Compassion has an invisible strength. It creates trust. When people sense that they can come to you without fear of being mocked, dismissed, or belittled, they open up. They feel safe. And safety is a rare gift. In fact, many leaders throughout history have been remembered less for their authority and more for the compassion they extended to those under their care. Kindness may seem quiet in the moment, but its echo lasts for years. Practicing compassion in everyday life does not require grand gestures. Sometimes it is as simple as listening fully when someone speaks, instead of planning your reply. It could be offering encouragement to a colleague struggling with self-doubt, or showing patience when a stranger makes a mistake. These moments seem small, but to the one receiving them, they can be monumental. Compassion plants seeds of hope that often grow long after the moment has passed. It is also important to extend compassion inward to yourself. Many people show kindness to others, yet are harsh with their own failures. But the Stoics taught balance. Discipline, yes, but also acceptance of our humanity. If you wish to embody compassion outwardly, you must also practice it within, reminding yourself that mistakes are not the end, but opportunities for growth. The heartbeat of compassion, then, is a rhythm of strength and gentleness. It is the pulse that reminds us we are all connected, that life is heavy for everyone, and that lifting another person, sometimes with nothing more than patience or a kind word, is the highest form of power. Compassion does not weaken you. It makes you unforgettable. Lesson 8, the discipline of consistency. Inspiration may spark change, but it is discipline that sustains it. Many people begin with enthusiasm, whether it's learning a new skill, pursuing fitness, or committing to personal growth, but fade as the days pass. Consistency is what separates those who simply wish from those who truly achieve. It is not about dramatic bursts of effort. It is about steady, repeated action that builds strength over time. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus taught, "Progress is not achieved by luck or accident, but by working on yourself daily." Consistency, then, is not glamorous, but it is powerful. When you choose to show up each day, even in small ways, you build habits that shape your character. Like drops of water wearing down stone, your steady efforts carve out strength that cannot be erased. Consistency also communicates reliability. When others see that you keep your word, follow through on commitments, and maintain your standards regardless of circumstances, you become someone they can trust. This reliability is magnetic because trust is rare. Anyone can act with enthusiasm once. Few can act with discipline again and again. People respect not only what you achieve, but the quiet persistence behind your achievements. Consider how this principle plays out in daily life. A person who practices consistency in their health by exercising regularly may not see dramatic results overnight, but over months and years. Their discipline shapes both their body and their mind. Similarly, someone who commits to reading a little each day or practicing gratitude every evening becomes wiser and calmer. not because of sudden change, but because of steady growth. Consistency also protects you from the trap of mood and circumstance. Many people only act when they feel like it, but feelings are fleeting. Discipline says, even when I am tired, I will still move forward. Even when life is busy, I will still make space for what matters. This quiet determination is what builds resilience. In the end, consistency is a form of self-respect. It says, I value my growth enough to nurture it daily. And when others see this in you, this steady commitment to what you believe in, they cannot help but admire it. Because while talent may impress, it is consistency that truly inspires. Lesson 9. The wealth of simplicity. In a world obsessed with more possessions, more recognition, more distractions, the Stoics remind us that true wealth lies in simplicity. To live simply is not to live without. It is to live with clarity. It is the art of recognizing what is essential and letting go of what is not. Simplicity frees us from the endless chase for external validation and helps us focus on the things that truly nourish the soul. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." This insight reveals a profound truth. Excess does not bring peace. Instead, it often burdens us with restlessness. By choosing simplicity, whether in our possessions, our routines, or our desires, we create space for gratitude, contentment, and focus. Imagine a room cluttered with unnecessary items. It is hard to move, hard to think, hard to find peace. Now imagine a room with only what is useful and meaningful. Suddenly, there is space to breathe, space to rest, and space to reflect. Life is much the same. When we cling to excess, endless comparisons, shallow pursuits, and unnecessary drama, we crowd out joy. But when we strip away what does not serve us, we discover the quiet wealth of simplicity. This does not mean renouncing all pleasures or living in denial of beauty. Simplicity is not about deprivation. It is about intention. It means asking, does this add value to my life, or does it weigh me down? For example, choosing a few high-quality relationships over countless shallow connections, or focusing on meaningful goals rather than chasing every fleeting trend. In simplicity, depth replaces distraction. Simplicity also strengthens resilience. When you need less, you are less vulnerable to loss. If your happiness depends on luxury, it can be taken from you. But if it depends on inner peace and simple joys, you remain unshaken. This is why the Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort, like sleeping on the floor or eating plain food. By experiencing less, they discovered how much they already had. In our modern age, simplicity is perhaps more powerful than ever. To be someone who is not enslaved by trends, possessions, or the need for constant stimulation is rare. And because it is rare, it is magnetic. Others will look to you and wonder how you can remain so calm in a world so frantic. The answer is simple. You have chosen less, and in doing so, you have gained more. Lesson 10. The courage of vulnerability. When we think of strength, many imagine an impenetrable shield, someone who never shows weakness, never falters, never bends. Yet the Stoics knew that true strength is not found in hiding your humanity, but in embracing it. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is courage. It is the willingness to be authentic in a world that rewards facades, to be open in a world that teaches us to guard ourselves at all costs. Epictetus once reminded his students, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. What he meant is that growth often requires us to risk embarrassment, rejection, or judgment. To be vulnerable is to risk being seen as less than perfect. But in that risk lies connection, resilience, and authenticity. A person who can admit their fears, their failures, and their doubts is often far stronger than one who hides behind an image of invulnerability. Think of a leader who pretends to have all the answers, compared to one who admits, "I don't know, but I'm willing to learn with you." Which one inspires greater trust? Pretending creates distance, while vulnerability builds bridges. People are not drawn to flawless masks. They are drawn to real humanity. And that is why vulnerability is not just a personal strength, but a social magnet. Living with vulnerability also allows us to grow. If we are afraid of failure, we never take risks. If we are afraid of rejection, we never pursue meaningful relationships. But when we accept that failure and rejection are part of life, stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks, we gain freedom. Vulnerability allows us to act without the chains of perfectionism, to live courageously instead of cautiously. The Stoics themselves practiced this courage by facing mortality, uncertainty, and loss head-on. Marcus Aurelius did not shy away from writing about his struggles with grief, fatigue, or frustration. Instead, he recorded them honestly in his meditations. This openness did not diminish his authority. It deepened it. His vulnerability made his wisdom more timeless, because it came from lived experience rather than a polished mask. In our own lives, the courage of vulnerability may be as simple as admitting, "I don't know," asking for help when needed, or expressing feelings honestly instead of suppressing them. Far from diminishing respect, it often amplifies it. Vulnerability shows others that you trust them enough to be real. And in a world where many hide behind carefully constructed images, authenticity is magnetic. Lesson 11. The Power of Restraint. In a culture that often glorifies constant expression, instant reactions, and unfiltered emotions, restraint is a rare and powerful virtue. It is the ability to pause when provoked, to choose silence when words would wound, and to act with intention rather than impulse. The Stoics saw restraint not as repression, but as mastery. It is the strength to control yourself rather than be controlled by circumstances. Epictetus taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Restraint is that mastery in action. When others lose their temper, the restrained person remains calm. When others overshare, the restrained person keeps dignity intact. Restraint communicates quiet authority. People recognize that you are not easily swayed, not reactive, but steady. And steadiness is magnetic. Think about situations where emotions run high. An argument, a workplace conflict, a moment of deep frustration. Most people rush to defend themselves, often saying or doing things they later regret. But the one who pauses, breathes, and speaks with deliberate clarity is the one remembered with respect. Restraint transforms chaos into order and disorder into dignity. This power extends beyond speech. Restraint also means knowing when not to act. In a world addicted to instant gratification, the person who can delay impulses, whether financial, emotional, or social, builds strength and resilience. By practicing restraint, you do not waste energy on trivial battles or fleeting pleasures. Instead, you preserve it for what truly matters. Seneca once wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." This delay is not weakness, it is wisdom. The ability to hold back an unkind word, to walk away from an unworthy fight, or to resist indulging in harmful habits demonstrates true control. It sends a message without speaking. I am not ruled by the moment. I am guided by principles. Restraint does not mean silence in the face of injustice, nor passivity when action is required. It means discerning the right time, the right measure, and the right manner. It means channeling energy into constructive action rather than wasting it in destructive reactions. When you embody restraint, you stand out in a world that confuses noise for strength. Lesson 12. The Legacy of Character. At the heart of Stoicism lies a simple but profound truth. Your true legacy is not in possessions, titles, or fleeting recognition, but in the character you cultivate and the impact you leave on others. Wealth fades, reputations shift, but character endures. It is the quiet echo of your actions that continues long after you are gone. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be." Be one. This is the essence of character, not endless discussion, but daily practice. Character is revealed not in grand moments, but in the small, consistent choices we make. Keeping promises, showing kindness, standing firm in values even when it costs us something. People may forget your words, but they will remember how your presence made them feel safe, inspired, respected. Building character is not about perfection, but about persistence. No one lives without mistakes or contradictions, but the Stoics taught that the work of life is to keep aligning yourself with virtue, integrity, honesty, compassion, courage. These are not abstract ideals, but living habits that must be practiced every day. When you live this way, you don't need to announce your worth. It becomes visible in the quiet consistency of your actions. Character also shapes influence. A person of character does not need to demand loyalty. It is freely given. They do not need to manipulate others to follow. They inspire through example. This is the kind of silent magnetism that Stoicism points toward. A life so rooted in principle that it naturally commands respect. And when your days end, that is the true measure of success. Not the applause you gathered, but the lives you touched and the values you carried. The legacy of character is not only what you leave behind for others, but also the inner peace it gives you while you live. To know you acted with integrity, to know you chose the harder right over the easier wrong, is a reward deeper than any external praise. It is the kind of fulfillment no one can take away, because it is built within you. Conclusion: the power of silent strength. As we arrive at the end of these 12 lessons, one truth shines clearly. True attractiveness, true influence, true respect. None of it comes from chasing applause, demanding attention, or putting on a mask. It comes from within. The Stoics taught us that real strength is quiet, steady, and rooted in character. It does not shout, it speaks in actions. It does not beg for recognition. It earns it naturally. Through these lessons, we've seen that independence, elegance, presence, compassion, restraint, and character are not tricks. They are timeless virtues. They shape the kind of person who commands respect the moment they walk into a room, not through noise, but through presence. People are drawn to those who are calm when others panic, grounded when others falter, and kind when others forget to be. This is the essence of what the Stoics called living in accordance with nature, to be guided by reason, discipline, and virtue rather than impulse and vanity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." In the same way, the best response to a noisy, superficial world is not to compete in noise, but to cultivate depth, to choose discipline over distraction, to embody character over charm, to value integrity over image. That is the kind of strength people remember. That is the kind of legacy that outlives us. So, as you step forward, ask yourself, which of these lessons will you begin practicing today? Perhaps it is restraint, learning to pause before you speak. Perhaps it is presence,